Hello, this is Kyle and Travis with Beyond Bipolar Blog, and I wanted to discuss tonight is mental health and managing that and work. And I wanted to describe a brief history of my brother and I's work history, because when you struggle with a mental illness, how do you manage work? And I guess I wanted to start off with our first history is we first began landscapers. And I'll be honest, we both kind of struggled to hold jobs. It's kind of weird because we would start off really, really good, and then I guess it would usually end up me throwing a fit and me quitting. Unfortunately, I think that happened most of the times, except for my last ones, which I was managed to stay pretty well at. But we first started off as landscapers, and we held that job for three months, and I guess after that I didn't get along with the lead. He was kind of an ass, sitting in the bod cap and trying to barking people around, and I kind of went crazy, and I screamed at. He said he wanted me to move, and I was like doing something, and apparently he wasn't. So I kind of had a rage fit, stripped off my shirt, and said, "Well, then why don't you fucking get out of the goddamn bobcat then yourself and do it yourself, you son of a bitch?" And I slammed the ground with the shovel, and I quit that job, and I ended up writing a letter, to them. I was pretty crazy. I wrote a letter to them and signed it, explaining that I wasn't the problem, and I showed them with me in a diaper. And that was that. The second one was irrigation. Irrigation was actually okay. We lasted about 2 seasons. One, we had issues, I guess, with the check, but I guess I just didn't want to work there anymore. So we worked there for 2 years, 2 seasons, and I guess it wasn't as dramatic, but I just said I was just going to quit because we weren't getting paid. So, and that was that. The third job was when I was in a relationship. My first relationship was Wells Fargo, and that was just another shot of crap. I only could last there for 2 months before I kind of went crazy, and I didn't really go crazy actually at the bid. I just didn't show up. I mean, I actually did talk to them saying I had mental health issues. And they asked me what do I want to do, and I said maybe I could cut my hours and not go on Wednesdays, and the work just piled up, and deep down I just didn't want to work there. And that's my history. But I'm gonna have my brother describe his work history too before we get to the recent ones.
Hello, my name is Travis. I'm going to explain my work history. I believe I did a video related to my ability to work and what happened, but I never went in this much depth, so today I'm going to go in a little bit more depth. As Kyle stated, in 2005, we started as landscapers during the summer heat, and then 2 seasons later, we did irrigation. Now, it's noted this was before I was ever diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it was actually the next year, 2008, in which I was diagnosed with bipolar because I thought I wanted to try something like Paxil, antidepressant that would help my mood.
That was when you're in school too.
However, I dealt with a lot of crap, and in the end, I ended up seeing my family practitioner for Paxil, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, I was having a manic episode, something like a drunk feeling. Anyways, let's get back to work.
That was in 2009, right?
So in 2009, I started Wells Fargo too, but I had a
2010.
very hard time managing it because I also was going to school full time, work full time, and it was just very stressful because I wasn't able to get proper sleep.
That was my problem too, ironically. Even though I'm not clinically bipolar, my problem was sleep, which we'll discuss more after this.
And ironically, because I was bipolar, it affected my ability to sleep properly. And since I'm really not a morning person, it's really difficult and challenging to even consider working, plus going to school full time. I think the ability to maybe work was exacerbated because I also went to school full time. However, as times change in 2011, I actually worked for UPS as a loader, and I was the most fittest I ever been, but very unstable.
You worked there 6 months, and I remember when I was dating my first ex, they kind of had an issue because I don't know. I think he could have been manic actually because he would just kept on bouncing in the room. Maybe he was lonely at home. I don't know if he remembers those feelings, but that's when I guess we all argued because we were in this bedroom and my ex said he wanted my brother out of here because she was kind of, I don't know what he was doing, but just kind of, I don't know what he was doing, but yeah, he was pretty hyper, I guess. I remember that time.
And that was really hard to adjust to because at the time I decided not be on medications. It wasn't until 2013 I tried medications, and there were various jobs that I considered doing, like a lawn mower type job. I went everywhere.
That
like
factory job too. That
I
you
had a
crashed the
factory
car.
job.
Crashed the car.
I ended up doing a very short stint working on a house, doing some landscaping type stuff or working on a house type stuff, maintenance. And then I also, so I had the factory job, the maintenance job, considered snow plowing job, trying to get my arborist certification,
Engines.
for cutting trees, my 2-cycle engine studies,
That was very worth
my
it.
piano tuning studies, and truck driver studies, which I ended up going to school and I ended up not doing anything.
So let's be clear that were you able to pass any of this?
No.
Do you blame that on your bipolar or the lack of effort or what?
I was pretty I was pretty indecisive at the time.
Me too.
But I've been on disability since 2009, and ever since then I had a very hard time getting myself adjusted to a full-time job. So anyway, because of that, I knew I was okay financially, and I lived with my dad, and at the time I wasn't charging very much for rent. He wasn't charging very much for rent. So it was manageable, but at the same time, it made me very clueless on what I really wanted to do with my life. So I spent most of my time creating stuff like music and art, airbrushing, things like that in 2013. Well, 2014 hit, that was my bad year.
You tried that phone business too. You mentioned that, right?
Oh, I did internet marketing for a while, and that really didn't go anywhere. I was
I
just
remember you're downstairs and Sabrina would say that you'd call and you hated that.
Project Payday, drop shipping, and
So basically, to work with your mental health, you believed that you thought working from home would benefit you.
I thought that would benefit me. Not only that, I felt like I was scared to work because it's been a while since I've actually.
Can we talk about the janitorial one though too? Is that
was
coming
in
up?
2015.
Oh.
So the reason why I chose this was it was maybe 14 hours a week because I wouldn't have to use my trial work period, which we can discuss later. That is when you're on disability, you do not have to pay back, and you don't lose any money
For 9 months.
And because of that, I was able to stay under that trial work period, and thus I was able to get my full SSDI and my my benefits from working. So I lasted that at 6 months. I also went to DBT for like 6 months. And ironically, I lasted at that job, but I was pretty depressed. I was at my lowest
What
weight
job
ever.
was this?
The janitorial job that I had. And then 2000...
You forgot to mention something though. Something really bad happened. You were having suicidality, and you had to tell PJ.
Yeah, I actually quit the job because of suicidation.
And that one before,
had
when
a
you
fallout with a relationship that didn't go anywhere.
and when you had that manufacturing job or something that I don't know how long that stint lasted, maybe a week, you crashed the car, or you got in the ditch. Remember?
That was in 2013.
Oh, 2013. Okay. So you could see that the cycle work, I guess, has been a struggle. So keep going.
So it was 2017. I tried to do internet marketing again. I thought I'd be able to sell a multi-level marketing scheme, which was selling Enagic waters, which is really just ionized water. And that didn't really go very well. I ended up crashing my account because I ended up getting blocked because of the fact that I actually used Ad Manager for the wrong type of mission, which was typically they didn't want me trying to sell everything else. So that failed, and I am spending a lot more money than I could chew. Then 2018 hit, and I ended up working in a bar, and then also doing
Me too with them.
and then also doing part time or a part time a part time job for test scoring for kids.
So I guess I wanted to lead off from there. That's why I actually stopped. Because I think with a lot of people with mental health issues, they have struggle working and holding jobs. I feel like maybe my brother struggled to an extent, but then he actually can work pretty hard. Like he did a lot of odd jobs for people too. Like my dad's girlfriend at her house painted and stuff. But I guess I just wanted to mention that 8 to 5 work has been always a struggle, and I think a lot of it with me personally was sleep. But I actually take trazodone for that, and that actually has been a remarkable way for helping me sleep, because I feel like if I don't know when I started this. I think I started this like in 2000. It had to have been 2000, maybe 14 maybe, or 15. But my problem has always been lack of sleep, and it just would up getting worse. I don't know if it was anxiety that I couldn't sleep, but this stuff just works. I know when I don't take it now, even when I'm stable now, I can't sleep, and I end up waking up later and later, which isn't good. So this has helped me actually sleep. But now that I actually have this concoction, just the trazodone, and I do take a sertraline, which is antidepressant, and a Ativan, which I rarely take. But I think after having a flexible sleep, my mental health has been pretty good. And I think since 2015, that's actually when I actually started working. When I realized that maybe I can actually go back in the workforce. Now I haven't been able to hold an 8 to 5 very often, but with me personally, things started looking up for me. I ended up working at a test scoring job 2015 for about 4 years, and within those 2 years, I actually was promoted to lead, which kind of surprised me because, I mean, I didn't think I was the hardest working or the most qualified, but for some reason they saw something in me, I guess, and that was pretty dang good, and it brought me a lot of self-worth that, hey, maybe I can work, just because it wasn't 8 to 5, it was more of a night job, which I am more of a night guy. And I know they say that sometimes it's genetic. Maybe some people are more night owls or more morning birds, but that job was pretty good, and that lasted for a bit, seasonal, every spring, scoring test scores. It took a difficult time to get management, which I think is why they kind of dropped me. But anyway, after that, I ended up working at the bar. It was okay, but I guess I didn't get along with Tuna. I don't know why. For some reason, I get bosses that like are assholes, and they kind of piss me off, and I say, screw you, I'm out of here. But maybe that's something I got to work on. But either that happened more at the bar, not at my other previous job, where I ended up being kind of a lead and manager, which was actually really good. I actually enjoyed that. The bar was okay. I knew I could do better than that, and after that, I was probably my most successful year was 2018. It was actually I worked at the test scoring gig, and then at the bar, and then through October through December, I worked at a tech analyst job for Best Buy, and that was, I mean, it really sucked. Like at the beginning, I was really stressed out. I lost my card and stuff, but for some reason, once you just get the hang of things, it just became easy. And like after like 4 hours or so, it was supper time, and then the day was just pretty easy, even though I didn't really know much. But I guess I wanted to say that just because you have a mental health issues doesn't mean you can't work around it. I feel like my brother and I have worked around it. One was cut the hours a little bit, or just find hours that fit you. And right now, we're currently working on a painting job that's, for some reason, Trash still likes waking up early and doing it early. Maybe he's just motivated. I don't know. It's not my thing, but I'm just doing it just to get just something to do. But I guess I left the house a little bit too, because currently we're studying for the A+ exam. I passed my first test, and I already had one before back in 2000, I think, 11, I think. But I want to renew mine, and with the corona and COVID, we can't take it yet, so we're kind of hanging there. And I don't know. I may plan doing that computer job. That's where I actually see myself making money. My brother, I think he's on a different path. I think he still wants to focus on music and art, but he can explain more about what his plans are next, or if you have anything else about jobs.
I thought about doing the A+ certification, but I'm also planning to maybe go back to piano technician work. I have to finish studying, and Kyle wants to join in, so I figured that since there's COVID times and we can't do anything really besides like essential work, and I'm not really interested in that right now because it might affect my dad and he could get really unhealthy pretty quick. Anyways, that's it.
So I wanted to ask you those. So what do you feel like work in mental health, and is it possible or not?
I think it's very possible to actually.
And what's your solutions, I guess?
My best solution is you got to be on the right medication. That's number one.
Can you describe those meds a little bit, or is it too much?
I've described
like your
it
sleep.
Before.
Okay.
So the reality is, if you're on the right cocktail medications, you can pretty much do anything and handle a job if you really want one.
And you've been waking up early for this job too, so.
And because of that, you can have the confidence and get where you really want to go. And to start things off, you have to start small. So if you don't want to use trial work periods and still get your disability money, or if you're not on disability and you want to at least start something, you can try part-time work that might be available. There is like jobs that work 20 hours or less, and you have to be careful because if it's more than that, you might have to be using a trial work period, and you only have 9 of those if you're on disability. However, because of that, you can develop confidence, and hopefully with that, you can do anything that you really want to. Sometimes it just takes that step of just pushing yourself to do something you're really uncomfortable with.
That's exactly
that
good
might be
advice.
odd hours, or maybe you don't like getting up early, or too long of a job. It's very important to start out small and then develop confidence so you can do something more beneficial with your life, or gear yourself towards something that you really want to do. But like I said, being the right cocktail meds can be beneficial. Seeing a therapist could be beneficial. Going to dialectical behavioral therapy groups can be beneficial. Going to support groups can be beneficial. And all of those, in a nutshell, if you have those all in sync, then pretty much you're good to go and do whatever you want to and achieve your dreams.
I believe work kind of does help people too, because when you're isolated on disability, you kind of don't have that interaction. Once you have work, you actually have you kind of have a purpose. But it's good to have a balance. It's good to go out, do your job, get some money, and then but also balance your own self, in my opinion. So just because it's 8 to 5 doesn't mean you have to be those type of people. I mean, if you have a family and stuff, maybe that makes things different. But if you don't have if you don't have kids and you're not married, you can have more of a luxury to more worry about yourself than other people. And I think that's important with mental health, is that just because they confine you on the 8 to 5 doesn't mean you have to be that way, in my opinion. You can make it work.
The truth is you're going to have setbacks. So if you try a job, it doesn't work, or if you go into something, you're out of focus, or you keep changing your mind, it's better to try than not try at all. However, it's good to have a goal so you can focus on something in the end. Hopefully you can achieve what you really want to do. I think that your failures, or your disinterest or not trying, can really hold yourself back from doing anything that you could possibly do in the future, because if you don't try now, then you might regret it that you didn't try it back in the day when you look back in your life. I think the most important thing when it comes to your life, besides being in the right cocktail medications, is you have to have the desire to want to make yourself better. And because of that, that might include a job, a better routine, because a job can give you a routine. That's a benefit of
Working out,
and having a good exercise diet,
eating
plan,
right.
eating right, and another thing is just taking care of yourself, self-care.
I also wanted to bring up too. I think it's not all about work too, but you have a lot of hobbies that you actually do, or maybe that you want to make into work, music and art, which actually helps your mood too.
I guess I could explain that.
You work on that like a lot. It's not you're doing nothing.
Yeah,
sitting
so
like what you used to.
Sometimes we spend 48 hours composing music, and then lately I've been actually spending 48 hours composing music, and then
No, you haven't.
and then
Working.
and then actually I after that I do video editing on Premiere, and then that can take up to 8 hours of my entire day. But I also break that up with working out, so I work 1 to 2 hours a day, 7 days a week now.
Do you think it's actually really good to have schedules though, for your mental health, right?
I think it's really good to have a routine. If you don't have one, you might stress yourself out. And to be honest with you, my routine's not that great, but I take my pacing routine into something that I call steps, and then hopefully I can get a lot of steps. I'm in the top 5% of like 1.4 million people, so that's pretty good. I have like over 400,000 steps. Or 470,000 steps, and it's 1 day left in 30 days, so that's pretty good.
So for people that don't have hobbies like art and music, do you think a job is the only choice, or what's your idea or opinion?
You can also volunteer.
Oh, volunteer. Yep.
I never did volunteering because I just felt it was pointless if I wasn't making money. But at the same time, I wanted to focus on something that I really wanted to do, and volunteering wasn't on my to-do list. However, it's beneficial for some people that just want to get out and have a circle of friends and support. It could be very beneficial for you because the more
it's
people
important to get out.
the more people you know, the likely scenario you might find a job that you actually like, or doing something that you actually like, or maybe discover that volunteering is something that you really are passionate about. And because of that, I think that's beneficial to at least explore your options versus just sitting sedentary and doing nothing.
And the reason why I wanted to explain this history is because what I learned is, like I said, nothing is end all be all. Like Travis says, take that chance, take that risk. And also, it doesn't have to be 8 to 5. You can make things work, like Travis and I do. We make our own hours, or we just do part time at the hours that we want to do. What did you learn based off your job history?
Well, the thing is, I don't recommend trying to bounce everywhere because it's not going to help you in the end. You got to try to focus on one goal and continue with that goal. Like going in 7 different career options is not really beneficial for you because you are left undecided. But at the same time, since I was pretty sick when it came to my mental health, it affected my ability to think rationally. So in the end, you got to think rationally and not be judgmental on what you're going to do. You might discover something that you really like to do, and hopefully you can continue on that path.
During this COVID time, it's actually been really good for me, for Travis and I. We're kind of introverted, so we don't necessarily have to go out all the time. And we have our dad's kind of old, so we kind of do have to stay inside. But we have stuff to do. I mean, that's why it's good to also improve yourself, study. That's why I wanted to renew my certification. But other than that, just hang in there. Just because you're bipolar, schizophrenic, doesn't mean you can't work at all. And if it's a job that you don't like, then that's fine. Just quit it, and then you'll find something that maybe it will work. Don't give up.
No, I don't recommend self-harm. I don't recommend alcohol to push your worries away. I recommend getting help, going to the hospital, taking the right medication.
At that time, if they are suicidal,
developing good habits. There are people out there that might be suicidal and who have
then that's probably not good to work.
Then it's probably not good to work, but who knows?
Their job is to...
Some people who might work actually find a routine, actually might be beneficial when it came to getting out and doing something with their life. However, my recommendation is it's self-service. You got to figure out what works best for you and continue down that path. Like I said, I don't recommend self-harm, cutting. I don't recommend having
Alcohol.
suicidal ideations. I
Drugs.
don't recommend drugs, alcohol. It's really hard to fight suicidal ideations for most people. But if you're ever experiencing them, maybe it's time to check out a therapist, time to check out new medications.
Or call 911 or the hospital.
Go to the hospital, see a psychiatrist. That's really beneficial. And because of those support systems, you actually might get somewhere with your life.
And you haven't been experiencing suicidal ideations or extreme depression?
No, not recently, because
For how long did that last?
this year's been really tremendous because
Last year was too, though, wasn't it?
it was pretty good last year, but because of this year, I become really healthy, become pretty much a health nut. I
Lost poundage. Explain that.
last week there was the day I actually paced for 5 hours, and people might think that's the stupidest thing to do, but I find it beneficial since I'm trying to lose weight.
But you're watching videos when you're doing it, though, aren't you?
Yeah, so part of me isn't that bored because I actually find a hobby to do, which is watch Netflix or Hulu.
Anime.
I'm a big anime fiend, so I actually do that when I'm totally bored. So develop something to keep your mind busy. That's the most important thing. Try not to do self-harm, alcohol, or drugs because that could
Makes your life way worse.
that could make your life a lot more worse than what you expect it to be. And take my word for it, I never tried alcohol or drugs or cut myself. But at the end game, I feel like even though I had suicide ideations, I went to get help when I needed it. That's so important. Going to the hospital, seeing a therapist, taking your meds regularly, seeing a psychiatrist.
When you were suicidal, were you thinking about work, or did you actually say your job is actually to stay alive?
In the end, work isn't the most essential thing to do. It is about maintaining composure,
Health.
maintaining your
Mental
health,
health.
because health is wealth. That's the one thing that you need to know, whether it's physical or mental. You got to be both mentally well, or a balance of physical, mental, and spiritual. But in the end, it's possible that working could benefit you. So try not to think that if you're sick, suicidal, you can't keep yourself busy doing really self-harm type of behaviors. You can still maybe think that, hey, maybe keeping myself busy is actually...
I remember there was one time you were suicidal at the test scoring gig, weren't you?
Yeah, there was a time
But for some reason you got through it and you just stayed through the end term, right?
A lot of my suicidality is actually related to relationships. So,
so it wasn't work.
so it
then.
wasn't actually work that makes me suicidal. It's actually... I keep my mind busy on relationships and how they failed. So that's the reason why I didn't have a very good outlet, and I was suicidal at best.
Okay, so on the positive note, hang in there, guys. I know it's kind of going crazy. We actually live in Minnesota ourselves, and with the COVID and the killing of Floyd, with the officer, it's kind of hits home here. But just thought it'd be good to talk about this. But hoping to see you guys soon. Take care.
Bye.